Oh, hang on. Oh, shit. There we go. Now we're here. Saturday weekend, talking mental health or whatever other topics. It is an open panel. We want to focus on mental health topics this month, including neurodivergence and things like self-care and just what keeps you sane in this world and how do you make it through your day and through your week and stuff like that. We're going to try to have different guests on with mental health topics. If you want to come on, if you know anyone that wants to come on, let us know. We want to this is our chance to kind of make the stream dedicated to something that has the potential to actually be useful.
Yeah, I mean it's still an open panel, but if you want to come on specifically and talk about, if you want like a focused spotlight segment to talk about something, let us know so we can carve that time out, because otherwise, it just like being an open panel, it's going to be chaotic and such. So just let us know so we can kind of prepare for to talk about a specific subject with you or something like that. So we know in advance. That would be really helpful.
Yeah. What was the topic today we were talking about backstage? I said that would make a good one. I don't remember.
We were talking about ADHD and we're talking about schizophrenia.
Yeah, you were telling your story of how you got diagnosed, and then it was like you were just leaving high school.
I was out of high. I graduated early. I graduated at 16. I was homeschooled.
So how did you? So because normally it comes through the school. So how did you end up referred to get a diagnosis, or did you do that on your own?
I got in a car accident, and while going through the car accident, they put me in therapy, and the therapist diagnosed me as ADHD. And
okay.
And so then they
they put you in mental health therapy.
Yeah, because I was having panic attacks after the car accident.
As like a symptom of the accident.
Yeah, I would have severe panic attacks driving after that point. I'd have to pull over on the side of the road and stop, and that's where my panic attacks started from.
And so for that reason, you got referred to it just like a normal mental health therapist.
Yeah.
Okay. Hey, Busker.
And then that therapist. That was the first Jewish person I ever met. The first New York Jew I ever met was my therapist. That's the first time I ever met somebody who was so.
And she's the one that said you were ADHD.
He was a really good guy. He was like a really well-meaning guy. I can't say that therapy helped me that much in a lot of ways, but he when I go into his office, his favorite thing to do would be to he'd always be playing Bob Dylan, and if I didn't have anything to say, he would put Bob Dylan on, and I would just be like, okay, so he would just listen to Bob Dylan.
That would make me trust him too. I would trust the therapist that had Dylan playing when I walked in.
Yeah. He was a good guy. I mean, but it was the first time I ever met somebody who looked like a Jew from a Woody Allen film. Okay, I didn't even know that.
So
I thought that was
nobody before him had ever brought up the possibility of ADHD in your entire school career.
I think my mom knew it was a possibility, but we were poor and we didn't have money for things like that.
So were we. The public school did all that. I'm talking about your teachers never. As long as you were making good grades, they didn't think.
I was homeschooled.
Oh, right. Okay, I forgot. All right.
In elementary school, I was diagnosed with that shit, and they put me on Ritalin, and I looked so skinny that if you looked at my school picture, it looked like I was basically transparent. You could see it was like a skull.
Yeah, basically transparent now. I hear you.
Wow.
But I gained a whole lot of weight once I stopped taking that shit, Ritalin. And my mom took me to so many counselors. I called them counselors, but they were, I don't know.
Specifically for the ADHD?
Yeah, and also just other stuff. They diagnosed me with the hell they call that?
Oppositional defiant disorder.
No, it's it's where you start cursing and
Tourette's.
Tourette's?
Tourette
Really?
syndrome. They diagnosed me with Tourette syndrome.
You don't seem like you have Tourette's at all.
No, I don't think.
No, but I had these tics where I was just like, I would start making these noises like, but like when I was younger, it was more high pitched. Like that's just like my throat is deeper. But when I was a kid, I would do that, and it would just sound like a dog yelping and fucking. And so they diagnosed me with that shit, and I think what it was is that I just needed to get out whatever was in me in a different way. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yes, I know exactly what you mean.
To filter it through something else, and over time, just a lot of my issues that I had mentally, I filtered it through music, and that really, that was part of my mental health fixation.
You know, looking back, I definitely see that myself too. I also focused a lot on music at that time, and music and writing. That was I see now that was like partly me, like doing it was like a self-care or coping type thing. I used for because like all the drugs I tried me on for ADHD and for depression and stuff like that, none of them really worked back then. They tried me on a dozen different things, and nothing really worked. So. I see now that that my fixation, me doing music and stuff like that was probably a lot of that too. So I get you there. I really do. Like what I was talking about though, because like I didn't even understand even after I got my second diagnosis, years later, whenever I went back to a doctor knowing that I had ADHD, but I started to realize that maybe that was the reason I was having some trouble, like staying focused and stuff like that at work. And I had health insurance with Amazon, so I went to a doctor, and that diagnosed me. But like even then, like she didn't really explain to me everything ADHD entailed and everything that ADHD could cause or do, or like they didn't explain a lot of things about executive function and how and how certain things are normal for ADHD people that aren't normal for other people. And there's that channel that
you said they did or they didn't. You did not have anyone to explain that.
It wasn't. It took YouTube to actually. It took like YouTube channels like how to ADHD.
Do you have some good ones that helped you?
Yeah, I put the link I put in the description yesterday for
okay.
how to do ADHD. I'll put it in again.
Chris, how did your ADHD present itself? Like how did it make you?
You have different types, and you're like primary inattentive.
Yeah, just like just general executive function issues. General like for ADHD people, like certain tasks, if you're not interested in them, it's almost painful for you to do them. Like it's like a struggle. Yeah. It's a real struggle to like do certain things, and like
school was my fucking. I hated it with such a passion that it drove me nuts. Because like I couldn't concentrate in math class at all, and I couldn't concentrate in anything. I flunked through all of my classes throughout elementary school, and then I finally started. Once I got on some different medications, my grades went up, but I had to do a lot of catch up, and to get.
Were you in special ed at all? Did they put you?
Yeah, they put me in special ed. And
did anything help you? And we have in the back maladaptive culture create mental illnesses. I'm not sure who you are. You have to show yourself on camera and let us know who you are so we can figure out if we know you. Okay, go ahead, Busker.
My mind just went to a memory of being in special ed. I had the special ed math teacher. I don't want to dox her name, but I just didn't like math class, so I naturally at the time I hated her, and not hated, I just really disliked whatever. And she had this damn drill timer for math
Oh
quiz
yeah.
and shit, and it would wind up with like
Timers do not help me.
and I was walking through the hallway in school and I saw her door was open and she wasn't in the classroom. And I saw that timer and I remember this big shit that was in this toilet in the boys' room. And I picked up that thing and I took it to the boys' room. This is like stealth as possible. Nobody
The
was in
timer.
Yeah, it was the drill timer that she put on for the math drills. So like I took it and put it in the bathroom and in that big pile of shit. So this was like me in 6th grade. So I was a bad kid. That's how I reacted.
Yeah, if you had done that to my timer, we would have had problems too.
That's how I reacted to her and mathematics. I just had this passionate hatred for her as I think she did for me.
What was special ed able to help you at all? Did they do anything for you?
Well, I mean, like, I know they had a different way of going about stuff, but I just couldn't concentrate. I had the ADHD shit, and I could not concentrate. Like, I think with Ritalin, but then later on, I was put on nortriptyline, and that's when I really started, started concentrating. Have you heard of nortriptyline?
But you're able to play music, right? You can.
Yeah, like I
concentrate
started
enough to
playing
play the
guitar when
music.
I was 11,
My
and like
signal is really bad.
that was long after I stopped. Ritalin was when I was 11. That's when I started playing guitar. Upside down when I started,
Oh, okay.
but I just played bar chords upside down,
Right.
like 2 strings, and then like I'd copy Misfits songs in my head and play with the distortion up real high, like real nasal sounding with lots of mids. Junior Busk, how you doing?
I'm doing well. How about yourself?
Pretty
My
good.
signal is.
Do you go busking, man?
I actually do not.
Oh yeah.
This
Hey,
is a
TCPS.
pseudonym
Sorry, didn't see
that
you.
I've used for years now, actually.
How'd you get it?
Well,
Get up?
it uses some letters from my actual name, and then there's just some letters I've just added in.
Okay, that's interesting. You should learn an instrument and go busking.
Well, I
Busk Junior and Busk.
Or no, weird. It's a weird kind of like synchronicity. It's so weird. It's one of those synchronicities. It might just be nothing, but I see these things all the time. I'm very.
I've seen you on Machine Lies before. You've been on the channel, right?
Yeah, I don't know. Sometimes I talk and sometimes I don't because there's a lot of stuff that's over my head. I don't really want to. That's when the ADD kicks in. I don't have the hyperactive shit going on. I just stay calm and I don't get hyper as like I used to, unless I'm drinking. That's a different story, and that's trying to get that out of my fucking life.
Yeah. Certainly, I don't think that. It's interesting. There's a theory that the mental illness rate of humanity went up after alcohol was first discovered.
I bet. Yeah, that sounds
And
like
the creativity rate did too.
That would be actually I don't know about that because the creativity rate from alcohol is lower than that from psychedelics, which people would have had before they had alcohol.
I gotta say.
I heard there was still a bump, like when the monks invented beer or.
Well, like
champagne,
you got to
whatever.
think about who they're measuring. Like if you think about young people, when they get the alcohol and drugs, they start playing like madmen, and that's how I did. I fucking played Irish
Yeah, I did
gigs,
too.
all drunk on all kinds of Guinness and Irish car bombs, and I didn't smoke pot during these gigs because I never could get hold of it. But I would definitely drink throughout the whole gig, and also when I did punk gigs, I would drink. And when we'd do recording, we'd be drinking Natty Boh and shit. Cases of Natty Boh.
Well, we're trying to find out what helped him with his mental health and all of that. So that's the context for the mental health conversations.
Okay.
Why has he got a monkey avatar?
Because he's a monkey. He's trying to be cute. Sometimes it works, but not often, especially as you get to know him. It's his brand.
Well, I've heard his name. He's been in other chats recently, right?
Yeah, he gets around. He sure does. He's a denizen of the streets, like most of us.
I see.
I'm more like a denizen of one little corner of the street. I don't really wander them anymore.
What's a denizen? I've heard that term before. I think it's a handle that I saw.
A resident, a being that lives there or occupies.
Oh, is that the dude that comes up is named Denizen, isn't it?
Oh yeah, that's a different kind of creature, denizen.
Yeah, okay. That's the first time I've ever seen that word. Was from that handle.
Oh yeah,
My back is all kinds of messed up.
difficult denizen at that.
I've been in bed for 5 days because I mucked up my foot, man. I injured myself real bad. I thought it was busted because it got all swollen and shit, and it's got under my sole got swollen, the up on top got swollen, and I don't know. Like now, I can finally walk next door. I couldn't even stand up on it at all, and it's sorry.
Well, I mean, hey, does this Frank guy? Does he? Come on the
Yeah,
stream?
Frank, this is TCPS. He's not a noob. He's been here almost from the beginning. So he's under another name. So yeah, TCPS, definitely take the floor if you have anything to contribute about mental health, what helps your own mental health, self-care tips, maybe other cultures that have mental health ideas that might help us, etc.
Well, it's interesting that they talk about like the mental health crisis, which I think is very real, and specifically, I've heard a lot about the men's mental health crisis recently.
Well, at least the suicide rates.
That's not something though that you see everywhere, right? Like you see, actually, we're very unusual. I don't mean like just America now, because now it's spread to a lot of other countries as we've basically, as our cultural rot has filtered down to the global south, we're starting to see these patterns there as well. But if you look at, not too long ago, these problems were really just not they weren't as serious of an issue in a lot of these traditional societies, right? Like suicide rates typically would have been lower in pre-industrial societies than they are in the modern world. And,
what do you think it is?
Well, I think it's that we're no longer living in an evolutionary match. We're living in a situation that we're not adapted to. And this has just happened so incredibly quickly with the rise of industrialization. And it's basically, it's destroyed all the things, or so many of the things that have made us human. And we're basically struggling now.
Yeah, but what's human? We don't know the limits of what we're always redefining what human is throughout history.
Yeah, we're doing a lot of maladaptive things that are causing the mental illness rates of society to go up. But I don't think that's clearly not flourishing, right? What it means to be human is whatever humans do that causes them to flourish and to have adaptive traits, and our society is losing that.
What do you think, like the top 2 or 3 things that are exacerbating the mental health crisis are, particularly for men?
Number one, individualism. So,
that's a good thing.
Like the issue.
What do you mean?
Our society, like there was at least rugged individualism, right? The notion that specifically men. So this is why it's specifically worse for men, is because because men in Western society at least are expected to be more independent and individualistic.
They're not naturally that. I'm naturally that way. In fact, people around me try to get me to not be that way.
Well, I would say that I don't think that ultimately people are naturally individualistic. I think that
Well, I can tell you I was.
others, but
Definitely
obviously,
was.
but even those that are independent are still, I think, less independent than they often think they are. Like you're right, there could be some people that are more
Relative to other kids my age. I was off the bottle in no time. I was eating people food. I was sleeping in my own bed. I was playing by myself. Like all
less
the
precocious.
markers.
That's not.
No, that was me. That as a baby. Like I was the first kid. I was the oldest. So I was like setting the benchmark for them to go by. Nobody was making me do that stuff. I was doing it on my own. And then my siblings came along and they had a different kind of pattern of development.
When you say
So
to what extent,
even just basic stuff like that, it was definitely my nature. It was definitely something innate to me.
to what extent though do you think that? To what extent do you think you could live independently from other people?
I could do it occasionally, like go like spend some time out in the wilderness alone, but I'd have to come back and like interact with civilization enough to recharge and like in order to do it intelligently. I couldn't just go live like that little Into the Wild kid was gonna do.
Yeah, so my point is that even you, although you might be more individualistic than the norm, even you, there's limits, right? Like we being humans are social animals. So a tiger.
Yeah, but I don't think rugged individualism is compatible with that. You can be a rugged individual and still be part of a community and have relationships and connections with other people and interdependent networks. I
would say that
the two are not incompatible to me.
So I would say that, and obviously, unfortunately, this is going to devolve into arguing about, I guess, terminology. What does it mean to be an individualist? I would say that if you are truly interdependent, though, then that's no longer individualism of the modern Western model.
Okay, so you're talking about a really extreme for like Unabomber type, which maybe I think those types are rare enough anyway. But that was one of the things you said was contributing. So I don't want to get too off track.
No, I would say that just to clarify my position on what individualism is, I would say that a business person who spends their whose life is their work, who frequently relocates so they don't develop deep bonds, communal bonds, and wherever they're at, who is because their life is their work and their work is their life, they don't develop really deep relationships beyond shallow business relationships with other people. I would say that's extreme individualism. That's one of the problems with men's mental health, is that so many men are being pushed into trying to fulfill that
isolation, lack of community.
Yeah, so if you want to call it isolation instead of individualism, you can call it that. I think that's one of the
I can give you that. I think for maybe a tiny portion of men, it's natural for them they're comfortable being a hermit, but for the most part, I think men that are isolated, it does affect them as it would any human. And I think not having outlets for that, not having ways to connect,
that's
have community with other men is definitely, yes, I could agree.
Well, I mean, that's the issue, because basically every traditional society had some sort of male solidarity. In our society,
but our male structure, initiatory structure, has been broken down for decades, like centuries by now. Like ever since the Industrial Revolution, they can trace a change in it. When fathers were taken out of the home.
I'm sorry to interrupt, but absolutely, and that was because a lot of the problems that you notice that are specific to men, like men having a significantly lower life expectancy than women, men having a significantly higher suicide rate, men being significantly more socially isolated, that all would have started around the time of the Industrial Revolution.
Yeah, so this has been people have been studying this for a while and noticing this pattern. There's a problem with how do we transition the next generation of men into adulthood. We're losing our traditions to do that, and we're losing the people, the elder men that are able to do that, because they're off doing their work thing. And so we're ended up with more and more lost boys each generation.
And then the problem is the gaslighting that we're being told that is normal. You know, I mean, that's because I'm still getting
No,
this.
I don't know who's saying that, but definitely not. Don't listen to that.
that
Don't listen to that. That is
there's,
not.
there's
Well,
lots of
I
people
mean,
out
what's
there who are
normal?
saying,
It's normal for how our society devolved now, but it's definitely not ideal.
and that's
And
very
it's
true.
not
But you wouldn't
healthy, and it's not helpful to the men. So
absolutely, and that's the problem. But a lot of these guys are letting themselves get gaslit. You know, one of the big shocks of my life, because I've spent the last 13 years, you know, basically using anthropology to culturally critique our messed up ideas about like what men's and women's roles are supposed to be. And you know what's fascinating is that I've the majority of the worst pushback I've gotten has been from men, because so many men are just like really gaslit, like profoundly gaslit, and they'll actually resist. They'll bite the hand that tries to feed them.
what are they like? They're believing something that what is it they're believing?
Basically, you know, they're saying that like, oh, what are you talking about? Like, they'll say that it's gay to want to have solidarity with other men. They'll say that like, well, a man's job is to be a workhorse. Like, what are you, some lazy?
Oh, so they kind of
Yeah,
internalize that role for themselves too.
Yeah,
Yeah, I think part of that is not having men before them to like set them on some kind of path where they didn't have to do that. Like that's part of the breakdown.
absolutely, and that's the thing, because like that's how people let themselves get, you know, gaslit and mind controlled, is because they don't have people out there that are leading them down an adaptive path.
We need healthy male role models, male mentors. We need like men setting positive example. We need leadership. We need all of that. I did a really, in fact, I'm going to find the link. I did a really good interview with this Irish dude named Garlock who works with men. He works with convicts, and he takes them out on the farm, and he puts them through all this hard work and breaks them down and gets at the core of their mental health and stuff. And he helps all of the, he like turns all these men around from doing that. And we had a good talk about men's mental health. Men need certain approaches that work for men. And they need community and support from other men. There's certain things that men can only get from men, both like support wise, just peer wise, laterally, and initiatorily, like vertically, having an elder man help you become an adult male yourself. Only men can do that for them. Women can't initiate men into male adulthood.
Well, it's interesting. I don't know if you guys are familiar with Joyce Benenson.
Sounds a little familiar.
She's probably one of the few like people in the Evo Psych world who I think is actually doing good work right now, because most of them are terrible. But like but she's actually did a series of experiments with male infants and female infants, and found that completely contrary to what our society, you know, says, what the narrative that's being pushed for the last couple hundred years is, the male infants actually, if you put them in a group setting, are significantly more gregarious and more naturally social than the female infants. And we're losing that because of this, you know, modern sort of like definition of masculinity that's basically, the point is like isolationism, or like social isolation now as a virtue, because men are supposedly quiet and stoic, but that's an image that was manufactured so that they could be good, you know, slaves at the assembly line during the Industrial Revolution, and it's ruined, man, and it's led to all these problems because they're not allowed to be what they seem to naturally actually be from infancy.
Yeah, and I think men need to step up and create solutions for these problems. I don't think anybody other than men can be expected to or ultimately relied on to solve it for themselves. So we need men. It needs to come from within men to help lay something better for the next generation.
Well, that's why we're here having this conversation.
That's yep.
Because the boomers are failing us, and the Gen X.
They failed me too. I didn't grow up with. I got a lot of intellectual mentoring, but I didn't get that life. I'm still trying to adult. Like I haven't transitioned to adult. I didn't get whatever that magic is that fathers give their sons, that turn them into adult males in today's modern society. I didn't get that.
Well, I grew up in a 2-parent home, and I still never felt like I actually, you know, received that that wisdom being transitioned.
Did your father teach you to change oil?
Nah.
See, stuff like that. Like the kids whose dad taught them the football and the changing the oil and how to invest in a savings account and it's all that shit that we take for granted.
Well, to be
Like,
fair, he did teach me about investing in a savings account. So,
well, treasure that. You got that kind of stuff. Like there's so many people missing that. Even in my generation, I noticed a lot of us were missing that.
Yeah, certainly with all the, I mean, honestly, I think that it's just been like that for a couple hundred years.
I don't know, Freak. I have seen individual men step up and do all this stuff. Step up in these roles. I was part of the Mankind Project. I've been part of the men's movement, both in the 90s and recently. There are men out there that are, whether it's women motivating them, intrinsic motivation, the men motivating them, family, whatever. It is happening. So I don't think it's going to just take women. But yes, if women can be a positive part of that change, I'm not going to turn that help away either.
I think now
they did the gun thing. They tried to teach me to hunt and fish, and I wasn't interested in that. So that's the only. And once they figured that out, they quit trying to initiate me into anything, and they kind of just left me on my own.
You know, it's interesting because the way I was like right now, I think that men are really, based on my experience, it seems like men are their own worst enemies. Because, you know, I'm not saying there aren't a lot of women that are internalizing these bad messages too, but I mean, I found that the greatest resistance to making a better world for men is men themselves, and specifically the men. A lot of times they're the men that are claiming they're men's advocates, like these red pill manosphere people. Right now, I consider them to be far worse for men's mental health than I consider most.
About the Andrew Tates.
Yeah, like the Andrew Fresh and Fit, Andrew Tate, all these, like they're a disaster. They're
Andrew Wilson's. No.
To the extent that Andrew Wilson internalized.
Where can they go to see an alternative to Andrew Tate? Who out there that can speak their language is doing it?
Well, that's the problem. There aren't people out there that are setting positive examples, and the ones that are being punished by the YouTube algorithm, while these clowns get rewarded. They fail up.
Tell them to send here. Tell them to come here, because so far they haven't been messing with me yet. So maybe we can give them a little platform.
Well, if I ever meet Andrew Tate, I'll be sure to.
Oh no, don't send him. Definitely. Although I would talk to him about mental health. I watched his interview with that psychologist, and it really showed me a more like complex side of him. So I would talk mental health with him, but otherwise, don't send him here on all the male BS. I call that PUA, pickup artists. Like, I don't call it manosphere because I know a lot of healthy things that come out of the manosphere too. So I try not to tie Andrew Tate to the manosphere itself. I keep him in the PUA movement or the pickup artists.
Who would be the what would be like an example of a channel that's in the manosphere that's trying to do good work right now?
I don't know about channel. I know him from Twitter, but they're older guys like John Barry, Peter Wright from Australia.
Steve's really good.
Yes, Steve. That's how we met. Paul Elam writes good stuff. Me and him got into it over autism on Twitter.
Oh, you know, he's the first.
But I don't agree with everything he says, but a lot of what he says, I think, is good, sound, solid, positive masculinity.
He's the first of the figures that you mentioned that I've heard his name before. Like, from what I understand, I mean, his whole shtick though is to try and gaslight you into thinking that like there's never been a positive model, which to me as an anthropologist and ethnographer, I think is insanity.
I've never seen him say there's never been, but I don't follow him closely. I did try to join his little. He has like a little group that meets. You can join a little community. They meet on Zoom, and I tried to join it, but and they never did get back with me, so I don't know.
Yeah. Oh, it would be interesting to go deeper into it. I only know because, like, I read this. He said something. All I know is he said something. He said that in every society in all of history, men have been oppressed and expendable. And to me, that's like I instantly lost any respect I had.
Well, I mean, I have heard that men are kind of the like protect women and children. Men are kind of like the cannon fodder and the expendable.
But they don't. But they're not always, and that's a historical development over time that can be traced.
Right, but I don't think it's that bizarre to have that impression out there that men are expendable.
Well, I would say that in the modern sort of Western framework, it is. But once you start saying that that's like the absolutely, this is just the way it is, and you especially start bringing like evo-psych into it, then you actually end up doing a lot of damage because you create fatalism and you create this notion that like, well, things can never possibly be another way, basically.
Well, that's what. Then we get into social science versus hard science. Like science goes where the truth is. If that turns out to be the truth, then it doesn't matter what.
Yeah, but it's false.
The
problem is that it's false.
Like social science or the humanities, I don't know how dogmatic you could be about something like that enough for it to become truth enough to have that kind of effect. That's why I don't worry about it. It's just it's going to be persuasive to those who are persuaded by it, just like all the woke stuff. It's going to appeal to a certain amount of people. It's going to make sense to them.
Yeah, but I'm not interested in like getting out like a message that ends up. I'm interested in the truth because the truth is that a message like that is actually not only is it false and is historically illiterate, but it's actually based on like the results of it are going to be maladaptive. Like they're not going to help men out to believe that, to internalize that sort of fatalism is actually, and that's what the red.
Where is this coming from, by the way? Because I myself really haven't seen a lot of this narrative or men believing that or talking about that.
Something I saw, years ago. I haven't kept in touch with his work recently, but I remember I was on the website of Voice for Men, and he was talking about like the history of oppression of men, basically. And he said that it's just been this it's just this eternal situation that there doesn't seem to be any escaping from. I'm like it's just.
Well, he's just one guy giving his opinion. Like only the people that go to his website and believe what he says are going to be affected by that, and then not all the same way either. The Art of Manliness is another good men's mental health site that I like, by the way. Yeah, so if just go tell Paul Elam that, then just go challenge him and say, hey, Paul, this thing you said here, I think if people buy into it, it could lead to this, and that.
Well, I suppose
he doesn't have the reach for me to take him seriously enough at all.
Yeah.
And a lot of things he does say does help men too. So I have to weigh that against. I mean, men are intelligent enough to know. I don't have to babysit people's critical thinking, although sometimes it seems like I do. Men are intelligent enough to know their own narrative, and they're not just going to blindly swallow something that doesn't resonate with their own experiences.
The problem is that, though, a lot of the narratives that they're believing, especially because I don't know how much you had to deal with these red pill people, but like they gaslight people to the extent that they become cult-like. And it's like lemmings jumping off a cliff.
But that's like every society, everywhere, every culture, any amount of humans, there's going to be a percentage of lemmings, of herd.
And what adaptive societies do is they use the followers to follow good ideas that are, positive for society, but these are bad ideas that are negative for society.
Then in liberal society, like we have, you put out better ideas and then people will start following yours instead. That's how you handle that.
Ideally, but realistically, then you get punished by the algorithm while these clowns get rewarded and get pushed.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Do it here, because so far we haven't. What's a better idea than the one? And the specific idea you're talking about is that men are made to work and be successful at the expense of the community around them.
Yeah, basically that men are taught to be basically focused on the self as opposed to the community, to individually compete rather than to cooperate with others. And that's another big problem. This idea that men can never really have solidarity because they're just naturally hardwired to be competitive. That's been a disaster for men.
And I think some of that is true. I think men do have a competitive nature. I've noticed it myself, even with kids.
Yeah,
but
humans have a competitive nature.
Even myself, highly competitive.
I don't think what you said would apply to most men I know. I don't think men are doing it for individual self reasons. They're doing it for their family. They're doing it for their kids. They're doing it for their wife. They're doing it for men are not doing it just for themselves.
But who are they competing against?
Other men.
Exactly.
But it's the idea that they're just selfishly out there.
No, I didn't say it was selfish, but I would say
competing
it
with other
was.
men. They're doing it for very noble purposes. Often.
No, I would say it's not selfish in the sense of like they're only doing it for themselves. I'm saying that what society is saying is that you're measured by your individual success against basically the herd, against the other men. So it's like it pits men against each other rather than
status. Well, when has human society not worked that way? Since probably the prehistoric days. Like you're talking about status?
No, I'm saying that
status hierarchies?
In traditional societies, there's typically, I mean, there's a lot of variation, obviously, from one society to another, but there's typically this idea of group orientation, like the leveling effect of being part of the entire group.
Yeah, I don't want all that. That's all that woke shit, that collective. I live in a collectivist culture right now.
That's adaptive. I mean, collectivist cultures succeed better than individual.
I'm not adapted to it at all. I have been swimming upstream for 15 years. I'm not successful up here at all. I am adapted to it in no way. I do not want.
But I don't think that Seattle is a collectivist culture the way that China. China is a much more collectivistic society than the Pacific.
Well, it's as collectivist as I've experienced here in the U.S. and it's collectivist enough for me to know that I don't want any more of it than I've already gotten a taste of. So no, give me rugged individual. I'll do it myself.
In what ways would you say that the Pacific Northwest is collective? Because it strikes me as being extremely individualistic, much more so than the South.
No, everybody has to take. No, the South is way more individualistic. Everybody has to take. Anytime you say or do something, you're not just free to say or do it. You have to take into account how it's going to affect every stranger around you, whether you know them or not. So you have to do this double thinking of, I want to say this thing, but if I say this thing, somebody might take it this way. So I have to be careful. And so you have to think for yourself and the group at the same time.
Well, wait a second.
In the South, people do what they want and people just adjust accordingly. I've never had to do this double track thinking until I moved here.
I don't think that that's collectivism. Collectivism is the notion. I'll tell you what, do you feel like you get more social support and that you have more people you can rely on in the Pacific Northwest or in the South?
No. I'm all alone up here. When I went to Louisiana,
which is not collective.
I spent 2 weeks around people for the first time, an entire network of people for weeks.
Yeah, well, that's literally the opposite of collectivism. Collectivism means that you are part of a group, you are part of a larger whole. And yeah, you have certain responsibilities to the group, and they have responsibilities.
No, I don't. That's I don't have responsibilities to a group that I did not agree to take on, and that's the problem with collectivism. They try to get you to meet responsibilities that the collective thinks you should have, whether you agree to that or not. It's not self-determining. It's
you understand what you're doing.
Your decisions.
No, what you're saying is you're saying that collectivism is the responsibilities, but you're disentangling it from the rights and the privileges that you get by being part of the collective, which is that they also have responsibilities to you to include you as a member of the group. Well, you're not being included as a member.
But none of that is expressed. Like if they consciously express, like if I signed a paper that said, here's what we're going to give you and here's what you agree to in return. But none of this is consciously expressed. So it's all assumed. It's assumed that I've agreed to receive these benefits, and in return, I'm going to meet these responsibilities.
Yeah, but you haven't received the benefits, so it's not a collectivistic system.
You said I did.
Not actually a part of
it, and I receive a benefit from it. Therefore, they have the right to expect something from me. And I'm saying I don't work that way. I am not a collectivist. So I reject that mode of work, like that model. It doesn't work for me.
Well, do you try to follow laws at all?
Yeah.
Isn't the legal system doing that as well, expecting something of you and not allowing you to be a completely free agent?
I think we're really off track here. I'm talking about social culture, social and emotional culture. I'm not talking about laws. Like the laws here are, they're a little collectivist in the sense that they have this big Seattle process that they have to run everything through that takes years and years and years because every single group has to weigh in and check in on everything, even if it doesn't affect them. But I was talking about more the social culture here, like the things I described about what you're free to say and do and the consequences from that if you take too much autonomy with it and don't take the collective into account.
Well, I don't think there's ever been any human society where you've been a completely free agent who didn't have to take the collective into account. Even individualistic societies police people to, have to say and do certain things.
Yeah, well, I know how I grew up in Louisiana, and I lived in Vegas, and I've lived other places, and I'm telling you that this is new to me when I moved up here. And other people from other places will say the same thing. You can go online and Google and get their accounts as well. I'm not sure we're
like the
talking about
50s, 60s, 70s in Louisiana. Do you think that you would have had the freedom to say, like, God doesn't exist, I worship Satan?
I did have that freedom. I still have it. I was just down there last year. It was still there. I said anything I wanted. Nobody policed me.
Yeah, because it's become much more individualistic. That's why I said 50s, 60s.
But it's always been that way. Like, you're an anthropologist. If you don't know my culture, don't make assumptions about it. Just take my word for it or go study it. But it doesn't work.
I would say, because I don't know specifically Louisiana, but I can tell you
seem skeptical of this contrast I'm trying to describe between.
In the part of the country I grew up in, which is not far from Louisiana, you were an absolute social pariah, even in the 90s, if you went around proclaiming atheism, proclaiming...
Well, not where I'm from. South Louisiana is its own very specific culture, even according to the people that study culture. What is it, Colin Woodward, his 11 Nations? So you can't compare it to, even if it's close to, it's not the same culture.
So South Louisiana is a specifically sort of like...
Yes, it's called New France. He calls it New France, and he identifies specific cultural features that are unique to that specific part of the country, as he does the other 10 nations.
Is one of the specific cultural features, though, this sort of like libertarian individualism where you can...
in fact, it is.
That would be interesting if it were true. Actually, because I'm not doubting this at all.
Get up. I posted the article.
I'm not that familiar with. It would be fascinating if that's true.
I'll repost it. Let's see. Here it is. A pocket of liberalism nestled in the Deep South. Its people are consensus-driven, tolerant, and comfortable with government, involved in the economy. It's among the most liberal place in North America. New France is focused around New Orleans, as well as the Canadian province of Quebec.
Are you from New Orleans?
Louisiana, where I live, is completely different from even the New Orleans area.
I see. Well, I mean, and it's possible. Like I said, I mean, there's all sorts of different configurations of societies.
People bitch and complain. Like the religious people would bitch and complain, but nobody interfere with me. Nobody tried to stop me. Like they might talk about me behind my back and gossip about me, but nobody. I was free to say anything atheistic. I was free to. Everyone thought I was a devil worshiper. They left me alone.
Well,
I was free to. Well, nobody interfered with my ability to be myself and do what I wanted to do.
Interesting. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. It's that I would say that's different from my experience of non-French Southern traditional culture. But again,
well, it may be because Chris grew up more in like what you described, and so I've heard some of the ways that he's grown up.
Yeah.
Were you like suppressed or like pressured to submerge yourself for the collective, or restricted? Like, could you say atheistic things?
I didn't. I mean, I was a believer for most of my even when I didn't agree with the church. I never really went full hardcore like open atheist. So I had my time period whenever I was kind of atheist leaning. But I never felt pressure to be part of that. I went through a long, like, spiritual kind of journey type thing, like discovering what I really believed and stuff like that. And I know my parents, despite being like, conservative Christians and fairly close-minded, a lot of things were actually very encouraging in terms of thinking differently and not thinking like, along the lines of every other person in the church type thing. And like my parents themselves, like I grew up as a child of a minister. My dad was a minister for most of my life, and then when we moved to Texarkana, like my dad, like he stopped. He had been kicked out of like 3 churches in a row for not even terribly radical like things. Like he was considered too radical for the Baptist churches that he had been employed at, and so, like, I mean, I guess, like, even though even my dad's very conservative, very hardline conservative Christian, even he was a little bit too like radical for a lot of them. And so, like, I mean, I guess that probably inspired some of my my rebelliousness or whatever to a degree. Like the father surpassing the son kind of thing in that sense or something. But I don't know. I didn't feel that pressure, no, necessarily. I feel it more today. Growing up, I didn't feel it that much. My parents were very open to me being who I wanted to be. Actually, they encouraged me to be an artist, a singer. Like I was really into singing. I used to take voice lessons, and I used to do choir competitions, stuff like that. So I did a lot of like artsy type stuff. I don't know. I don't.
Did they try to shame you or make you feel like you were going to hell for anything?
No. I didn't get that. I didn't get that from. I would get that from church sometimes. But it wasn't aimed at me specifically. It was aimed at the whole the whole congregation. There was a lot of like shaming people into like coming up and rededicating your life to Christ and stuff like that kind of thing. There was a lot of like people that would go up and get saved every week kind of thing. There was a lot of stuff like that that I didn't fall into, but I was a weirdo even then. I was weird even in church. Like I was always like I was an outlier even in that sense. Like
you got to keep in mind you're on a neurodivergent panel, so our backgrounds are probably not going to follow the traditional pattern.
Yeah, we don't follow that pattern at all.
And Frank, we're going to do a whole episode on mental health and trolls and how to take care of your mental health and maintain your sanity.
Do we know anybody who's like openly a troll? Maybe like girl Lindsay.
Wonder, it's like somebody
I practiced that last night to great success.
Trolling?
No. How to deal with the trolls.
Oh, what happened? What did you do?
I was over on Flows, and
I saw a little of that stream. It was it didn't stay very long.
What's his name? The Queen, Steven.
The Queen. Oh, okay, yeah.
You mean Insanity
King.
Machine?
Yeah, that guy. He came up there, and I just kept my mouth shut. I said, I'm not going to say a word. I never said nothing to him. I wasn't even talking.
Oh, I saw that. He went out. He did it again.
Yes, you saw that?
Yes. I'm like, why do you keep incriminating yourself over and over and over?
First it was my ugly beard, and I was just laughing. And then he goes, I wanna F your daughter. Then he come back and he says, I'm gonna F your daughters. And then when Flo had got up to go get a drink, he said, I'll be right back. And he must have been maybe 3 steps away from the computer when he heard Steven spouting that shit, spun around and kicked him straight out. And I didn't have to say a word to it.
That was the first thing I noticed about him that really bothered me. That was the fact that he's
that wasn't the first time. The same thing happened here.
He goes after people's families, and he goes full ad hominem.
But I don't want him to be the top.
Oh, I didn't want to turn it into that.
I am his content. He is not mine.
I had to laugh. It made me laugh. Instead of arguing with him, I just kept my microphone turned off and ignored him and he got madder and madder, and I'm
Yeah,
like, crazy.
that's basic. Don't feed the trolls 101. You just watch
Yep.
them implode.
Took me a while to learn that lesson, though. I think I learned that from you.
Kid. I think I learned it very early as a kid.
Well, I learned it from you, that approach.
I learned to not feed the trolls very, very early on. At the same time, like I know how you feel. Like it's extremely, when you get the right certain people can push your buttons in a way that just makes you want to like, it makes you want to like stand up and fight back. Like even though like you know this is the wrong.
That's
move.
a button though. That's a button being.
It is. It's a button being pushed. It's something you have to you literally have to man up and just walk away from it. Be like, nope, I'm not going to do this. I am better than this, and walk away from it. And it's difficult to do, man. It's really difficult. I mean, it's hard whenever someone's like attacking like your family or something like that or something.
Yeah,
like
when somebody hits a nerve, yeah,
it makes you want to go scorched earth. You know,
But
really
like on something like a panel, all you have to do is hop off, like just leave, and it ends it. So there's no, if you're staying on the panel after that, you're choosing to expose yourself to a situation you no longer.
But I kept my mic muted the whole time.
Well,
I wasn't going to interact with him.
I've always thought you were very mature. You were one of the adults.
Yeah, yeah.
Well,
Chuck,
you know that's you know, Jeff, that particular issue is a line in the sand, as I call it, for me. But I was trying to come up with a different approach so it didn't affect me.
Well, I think you showed a lot of grace.
Well, you got to approach life with an open mind. You got to learn to adapt and change in order to survive. If you want to survive.
I try to stay in control of my own experience and not let trolls or other people hijack that or throw it off or turn it into something different than I'm trying to make it. And so I'm kind of alert to that when it happens, and I catch it early because I don't want somebody else dictating my experience. I want to be the one deciding that.
Yep.
Yeah, kind of, sort of, Frank. I think we all see you that way.
Winston Churchill. He was a good man.
It is true. I am. I'm the one with the kick me sign. It's so easy to put a kick me sign.
Oh, I got one of them.
I'm gonna go all day and not notice it.
It's not an exclusive club, Jeff. Welcome.
No, Daniel, I'm talking about it ends that experience for you in the moment. So, like, if you hear something upsetting, or if you're triggered, or a troll comes on and says something to upset you, instead of staying on the panel after that and continue to expose yourself to that stimulus, you can sign off or jump off the panel or turn your camera off and walk away or whatever. And that breaks your contact with that stimulus for long enough for you to decide what you want to do next. That's all I was saying. I'm not saying the drama is always going to be out in the panelverse. Like, you have to have a certain amount of thick skin to be here. And I've showed that chart many times that my friend made that I'm so fond of. And this stream is designed for people with some pretty big panties, some pretty big resilience. They've crossed the zone of transformation, so they're in the zone of autonomy and self-determination, etc. This is not a panel for snowflake fragile people. I don't think the panelverse in general should be, but especially ours. Hey,
sorry guys, my fucking computer took a shit. So I got it back.
Oh right, I gotta go. I told Frank's trying to panel daddy me. He may end up being the panel daddy. He wanted me to wear something today, and I showed up in this. So I'm feeling pressured now. I'm feeling social pressure of my own.
Yeah, he wanted you to wear something light and pastel.
Let me go see what I could do. I do aim to please our loyal viewers. So let me go see what I could do. I'll be back.
Well, that's called Frank Daddy Warbucks.
Daddy Warbucks.
Yeah, but in the same token, Chris, I got just as mad myself when he did to you what he did to you. the situation. You know what I'm talking.
Yeah.
And
yeah,
I got
triggered
just
me.
as mad as you would have.
It triggered me a lot because it was such a non-issue.
And it crossed so many boundaries is what kills me.
And like nothing really happened. That's the thing. Like I went back and looked at like what the conflict was, and it wasn't. There was like nothing really happened except for
Exactly. Except for the fact that exactly. I don't want to get you upset.
No. I'm just not even getting upset. I just don't want to like make that the content on the channel. I just like
Right.
I said, I don't want to bring him up on here and like basically summon him to do yet another.
Oh yeah, yeah. I got you.
Not that he's not covering every one of our streams every day, but still.
Gotcha.
I don't want to feed that at anyway, but still, it's just like sad and delusional, basically.
All right, this is the best I can do. I'm like bottom of the laundry week, so yeah, I really appreciate y'all keeping the topic off here and respecting that. So.
Uh-oh, you broke out the leopard skin, Frank.
So I hope this works for everybody.
See if he responds.
Okay, yay. At least I get my like. I should at least get my like for this.
Did you? Well, there you go.
He's a harsh master with those likes. He
Who is
expects a lot.
that J.R. Buck?
Huh?
Who's that J.R. Buck?
That's TCPS.
Who?
TCPS, Traditional Culture Preservation Society.
Oh, okay. I've only ever seen him over here a couple of times.
Yeah,
he
been on
used to come on quite a bit. He used to be on quite a bit.
Cascadian Anarch used to come on a lot.
Cascadian, I think he's just been with his girlfriend, though. I don't think it's like, I think he's just.
Oh, yeah, I forgot about Truth or Cop. I had been on some panels with him a few times. He had some interesting things to say.
Isn't Truth or Cop the one that's always fighting with Hank? Or Hank's
he's got the. He's the kid that wears the fedora, got the scraggly beard.
If he's Truth or Cop, isn't he a conspiracy theorist or some shit?
I assume everybody on here is a conspiracy. I think I'm the only conspiracist.
I'm a reality analyst.
And I didn't realize Flo was as deep in the rabbit holes.
Yeah. Oh,
is what he is. That surprised me.
I saw that the first couple of times I watched him. He has some very bizarre ideas about some things.
Yeah, I do too. Because I observe things. I'm a reality analyst. I'm not a conspiracy theorist.
He threw me off panel a couple times last night.
Flo did, and you kept going back.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Y'all are all codependent.
Well, no, he put me backstage because I was making fun of the video he was playing.
Oh.
Yeah, I guess it's more understandable, but still.
He's playing a video about
it today. You're just a
Chris
little
is what?
He's blurry.
Yeah,
it looked like he's the link got the
I'm not I wasn't sitting up.
You look like my vision. You look like my vision all the time. That's what everything looks like with optics.
Oh.
I was literally I'm Sasquatch's cousin. Yeah, you're right.
I don't even know how you can move from working on that inside that car.
It's because
there ain't much room to do any work.
There isn't really. I didn't fully anticipate the level of the videos I watched beforehand did not fully prepare me for what I was getting myself into. And a lot of them omitted a lot of information. What I don't know. I've followed YouTube tutorials on so many things that have never like skipped a step, like cooking videos and repair videos and stuff like that have always been really thorough. And this is just one case where like everyone who did a video about something that even related to this particular thing I was trying to do, they always skip some really important parts. Like for example, like in order to get to the pipes, to disconnect the pipes from the AC HVAC module that's in the car, in order to get to those, you have to remove the entire windshield assembly and it's cowl, and then like you have to remove the motorized part of the windshield assembly, and then you have to remove like the metal part that sits on in order to even access the
Oh,
pipes.
good Lord.
It's ridiculous. Like there's every time you think you've disconnected enough stuff, you like, nope, you got to disconnect some more. You got to disconnect some more. I mean, like I should have taken it. I keep saying I'm going to take a picture of it and show it on stream, but like I'm embarrassed by the picture. Like it just it looks worse than anything. Like if you guys saw it, you'd be like, oh yeah, you don't have a car
Been
anymore.
there, done that.
Everyone would just say like, oh yeah, you don't have a car anymore. Your car is dead. But I know I can get it back together. I've gotten more complicated things back together, I think, in the past. So I remember once I worked on this. I worked on a Dell laptop once that had like one of those like swivel screens on it. You know, like those screens that would pop up.
Yep.
And I had to replace the screen on it. And in getting to that required me to fully disassemble the entire bottom part of the computer before I could actually access the top part of the computer. And I remember it took me a month and a half, but I finally got it all back together and working. It's just like, but it's just a major. Like, they're just, and you're talking about like tiny stuff. Like I said, the big difference between this and disassembling a laptop, repairing one, is that everything is gigantic instead of like really small. So I had most of my tools that I have are what you call precision tools, like like really tiny screwdriver heads and stuff like that. So I had to go and find like cheap versions of various like tools that are specialized for this sort of thing. I had to find hose clamps and things like that on Amazon. I had to like do tons of Amazon research to find like the cheapest versions and that weren't like terrible and stuff like that. And it's one thing after another. I finally, like, every time I'd get so far, I'd run into a roadblock that I'd be like, well, I can't go any further until I get something else, because like I had like a 10-bit socket bit. This guy that was a roommate with us for a while, that whenever he took off, he took most of my tools with him. He stole most of my tools and then ghosted me. So I didn't have most of my tools that I used to have. So I had to kind of like rig some things together.
Today, do you want to open a stream on your channel and keep it going?
Oh, you want to end?
He's got a hot date.
Yeah, and I have something tonight anyway. So I only have a few hours.
Okay. I'm probably once I'm done here, I'm probably gonna
go work on your car.
I'm probably gonna lay down for a few minutes while the sun right now looks like it's getting cloudy, so it'll be nice to work out. I'm gonna let the clouds keep taking over, and then I'm probably gonna go out and see if I can can't finish putting.
Frank, are we doing an episode? I could probably fit one in.
Okay, I'm gonna jump off because he's closing down. Y'all have a good one.
I'm out of here anyway. See you guys later.
Bye,
right,
Busker.
Take care, everyone. I might do one tonight to make up for
we didn't really get into much what we started talking about, but that's okay.
Well, yeah, I mean, me and Trad were talking about men's mental health, and then the conversation just got lost somewhere. I need to figure out how that happens.
It just happens in conversations. It's normal. Like, I mean, if you have conversations, if you're actually on a back porch and you're starting to talk about something.
I know, but for Mental Health Month, I want to prioritize conversations that have the potential to give information to help other people. That's what I did last year. I want to do it again this year. And I want to have people that want to collaborate with me on doing that, not people I have to fight and wrestle with to make that happen.
Sure. No, I get that.
I think it's an unreasonable thing to ask for Mental Health Month to try to keep
I agree.
And so we were in the middle of a good conversation on men's mental health. And I know that the way the stream works, the conversation is going to go all over the place. But when I'm trying to rein them in, and this has been an issue that's been coming up on here quite frequently, when I do try to rein them in on the occasions that I do for whatever reason, I have to fight the panel to do it instead of like the panel saying, oh, okay, let's all have this conversation because out of all the ones happening now, it's the one with the most potential, or it's the one that Jeff wants to feature, etc. I find myself having to fight the people that for the last year I've been collaborating with.
Well, since the first hour tends to be kind of slow, we could use the first hour of the podcast to not necessarily open it up right away, and we can talk more about like the specific issues, just like we have guests or something like that, and then open it up after the first hour.
We could, if it falls into that pattern. But like I noticed, it really just depends on who shows up when. And when the right people show up at the right time, the conversation becomes one thing. I'm not saying it's bad. I'm just saying I'm trying to have, for at least for May, I'm trying to have targeted conversations. And so I need to have people on the panel that can help with that and not work against it. And,
Yeah,
and
so
it's
even Frank,
for May,
even Frank,
and it's just an experiment. We don't have to do it the whole panel, but I would like some of the panel time to be time that we can have the conversations about the mental health topics that I want to devote this month to.
yeah, me too. I really agree, because like I really did have some things to say, but I mean it's not anybody's fault. I love Busker.
No, it's not anybody's fault, but some of it's the spurgery. I'm gonna be honest. And when I try to step in and kind of guide it, they don't take my cues. Y'all don't take my cues. Like once y'all start spurging about text something, and I'm trying to like, can we get back to men's? It doesn't. You don't make the switch back to men's mental health.
I was just answering a question.
I'm not. I'm just using this as an example. I'm not singling it out. It's a pattern with not even just you. I'm just trying to troubleshoot here. That's all. Hey, DaFreak, by the way.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I agree that
because there's kind of a hierarchy of topics. I've noticed it. There's topics that happen when there's nothing else to talk about. There's topics that are really like they have good like heat and energy to them, and I'm really interested and want to follow them. And then some like less interesting or like less consequential topic will come in, and all of a sudden that's where the conversation will go. And I need a way to like keep the conversations at the top of the stack prioritized. And
well,
I need people on the panel that can kind of take my cues and help with that.
We've done a really good job when we've had guests, like when we had Leslie Boyce and Buck Angel on. Both those shows went very well like that, even though they're not our very highly viewed streams of ours. But I did, however, send out emails to all of those people we talked about earlier, and we'll see if we get any responses back, and maybe we'll get some guests on.
Yeah, like that would be good. But the days we don't have guests, I would still like to be able to.
Oh, definitely. I think there's definitely value
and have everybody kind of help have those. Have it be if everybody's not on the same page, it's not going to work. But I would like everybody to also try to be enthusiastic about having those same conversations.
Yeah, no, I mean, I was enthusiastic.
I'm not. This is not criticism of you today. This is me talking in the abstract based on things I've noticed the last couple of weeks. I'm just troubleshooting. But that's all I'm doing. I'm just trying to analyze and look at, and it's not meant to be personally. And if you're going to take it personally, I don't want that to stop the conversation. Like our ability.
I'm not taking it personally. I'm just
trying to figure out how to have the topics that I want on the stream be prioritized, and how to have the panelists that normally are okay with working together work together with me on this issue, because that word seems to be where the resistance comes from. I don't know if it's the not going along with the crowd instinct, or if it's the spurgery or the ADHD, and not just you. I'm talking about most people involved. Or have some
and you know, we didn't even get off into like the most obvious thing to talk about for the day, which is May the 4th be with you. So there you go.
Oh, is that today?
Yeah, it's May the 4th. Yeah. It's
welcome.
National Star Wars Day.
Yeah, one thing I noticed with myself and a lot of other men is usually it's after a sustained loss, like divorce, that there's no support like whatsoever. I'm not talking about like emotional support, mental health support, familial support, friend support. There's nothing. And building some kind of infrastructure or some kind of something would be better than what we have, which is absolutely nothing.
Mm-hmm. Where are there other men that people can? I think it's what I think it is, just generally, largely, is men that are in those situations, that are isolated or going through crises that are isolating them. And for the first time, they may have be feeling the impulse to reach out and not know how, not know where. So just letting men know it's okay if you feel alone to reach out, because there's there's a big risk in making yourself vulnerable, especially to other men. And then knowing where to reach out, like having resources or having places to point these men to say, start here, or talk to this person, or try this. Because
Yeah.
if there are men out there alone in crisis right now, unless they verbalize that to me, I'm not even going to know it.
That's true. And then we're, called weak or called, whatever, stigmatized.
By other men.
But what's
and
worse
sometimes
is
by women.
the fact that there's nothing right now in terms of what you're saying. Usually it ends up like you're not feeling up to par, let's just say, and then next thing you know, you find yourself in a psych ward, that is going to be used against you later anyway, in some sort of court proceeding or some sort of family law dispute or some court. So it's a suicidal system for men. Actually, is what it is.
I would tell men right now, if you are alone, if you don't have other men, if you don't have support, and for right now, it could come from anywhere, wife, family, wherever. But if you don't have some kind of support, and then if you don't have male support, I would also try to find ways to do that. But start building it now. Don't wait for a crisis. So if you're alone right now and not in a crisis, start thinking about ways to get more connections into your life for when you are those times when you are going to need that. Like it's never too early to start building your support system.
Yeah, I would agree. And I never thought to reach out for, say, like depression or anything. But when I got divorced, I was depressed. And, what happened was I was still in a corporate job or whatever. And I went through probably 2 or 3 different medications before basically just the regular old run of the mill Prozac was what worked for me. But getting there was not easy because these other medications would throw you off. Like, weird dreams. The side effects were, sometimes you think you're crazy or something. And so, if you're depressed and you're still in a marriage, or you still have a family, or you haven't sustained a clear business loss or something, reach out now, kind of a thing. Like Jeff was just saying, as opposed to waiting until everything collapses, because then nobody's really going to give a shit about you at all.
No, if you're depressed, yes, reach out now. If you're depressed, don't wait for it to get worse. If you're depressed and you know you're depressed or suspect, at least, and almost any therapist or public mental health agency out there, you can usually get some kind of free intake or consultation. There's somebody that will talk to you and hear your story and let you know if they think they can help you or how they can help you or who might be able to help you, etc. That's really easy to get nowadays.
Okay.
Well, even that is difficult though, because I don't know what it is, but like it's just I don't know how to explain it, but it's always like, I don't know, it's like maybe it's just me, but it's always like the odd man out or the outsider kind of. I don't know how to explain it, Jeff, but
Like even if you do reach
it's not
out,
welcoming, it's not inviting, it's not homely, but you don't expect that from men. But it's like it's too trolly, it's too gossipy even nowadays. The men are like women now with the way they gossip.
well, I'm guilty of some of that too. But what do you think is there something that we could create as a community that would help? Like either a group, we could even do a stream, or like a resource hotline or a web page or a team of people that people could reach out to. It seems like there's something grassroots that we could even start that would help with that.
Yeah, maybe even just a room in the Discord. I feel down or something. I don't know, like some
I
sort
had
of
an entire Discord
initial
of
appearance or
mental
something.
health. And I think, and I had a channel in there that people would go to for support. I think I'm going to add one to the Discord. I'll just do like mental health support right now. And if we need to do a specific men's one,
Yeah, we just need to monitor it, make sure that we know.
Like, let's chat. Let's chat something. You know what I mean? Like, what's on your mind or something.
Yeah, I think I'm gonna do that right now. Great idea. See, this is what I like. Creative problem solving and solutions and action. This is good.
Because, like, literally, you can't go to a church, you can't go to a AA meeting, you can't go to any of these whatever community, and they're gonna lecture you. They're gonna make you feel like you're a fucking asshole, stupid idiot, weakling, and it's just not. It's just not something a guy who's trying to basically pay the bills and be everything to everyone, meet their expectations, wake up every day on time, all that stuff is going to be interested in doing at all.
Yeah. I agree. I used to run. In fact, Steve was a part of it. A weekly men's support group on Zoom, and when I started streaming, I was I had to figure out how to juggle all my groups, and that was one of the groups that I was like, I wish there was a way to do this on a stream. I mean, some of it's the confidentiality issue. Like, people are not gonna open up the same way publicly that they would in a closed Zoom. But if there's a way to even give, like, because I think it's important for men to see other men doing this. If there's a way to, like, stream it and show people where men could see what it looks like to open up, see what the conversations look like, see what the reactions are like, etc., with other men.
Yeah, and I think there needs to be kind of a distinction between actual mental health, which are serious medical problems, and quote unquote emotional health or health, which men probably need that in a minimal way, but even the minimal is not available now, and so it might just be as much as hey buddy, hang in there, it'll be better tomorrow. It might just be that.
Peer support for men. Like, men need a specific type of support from other men, a specific type of peer support, just like all these other groups do.
Yeah, a friend that will offer even just the slightest encouragement without needing $100 right now. How about that?
Yeah. Well, hopefully, I mean, in the meantime, hopefully people can come here or one of the panels that are and get that from. Like, there's several panels here, I think, that people seem to get some of that from. And in the meantime, we have that, but just find a way to expand it and have it be available for more people that need it. That ADHD men's network I was talking about, that's kind of how it started. And now it's this, I think they just went nonprofit. They have a web page. They have their own podcasts. They do all these groups. I mean, it's an entire network now, specifically for men with ADHD and neurodivergence. So it would be easy to grow something like that for other men's issues.
Another thing, like, long term would be, and I keep saying this, I've been saying it for a while, is actually separating boys and girls in kindergarten through 12th grade or maybe 10th grade, and having male teachers only for the boys. Teaching them kind of their roles, kind of their you're able to motivate them in a more natural way than to just mix them all up or whatever. Plus, you get respect back between the genders. Plus, you get that mystery back between the male and female. And if you have chaperoned events and stuff, I just think that it's probably time for that, because now the way things are going, it's a disaster.
I've thought of that before. I was thinking of my own. Like, I think I had at one school, the music teacher was male, and the band teacher at the other school was male. The PE coach and the math teacher, and none of those were in the junior high school building. In the actual building where we had classes, 6th, 7th, and 8th grade, there was one male teacher, the 8th grade math teacher. Every other teacher in that entire building was female. So you had one male teacher in the building the entire day. And then high school, it was a little bit more of a mix, but I I don't know if educationally it made a difference, like academically, because I got so much of that on my own anyway. But I think having more male role models, not necessarily teaching these specific subjects, but having access to more male role models. And then if the schools are not having that, if like it's majority female, then finding ways for guys to get that need it.
I think that if you're in a class full of girls and well, just say the class is half boys, half girls, or whatever, and every support staff member is a female and the teacher is a female, and some, group discussion comes up, or who do you think the teacher's going to side with, and have their bias towards, or,
Yeah.
it's just the deck is stacked. And that's why a lot of these guys are just like, forget it, if they see that there's no way to win the rigged game, then they're just not going to play.
That's the hopelessness and despair. And there is, so A, we need to give them hope. And I think there is hope. And B, like finding a way for older, and it doesn't have to be much older, but guys that made it out of the high school or whatever system, help the guys in it, help the younger people, the teenagers, learn to help each other, show them how to set up groups for each other, show them mentoring skills, show them support skills, teach them basic peer support, etc., so that they can be empowered to start, because they're going to know each other's needs better than our generation will. But at least setting them with the tools where they could start taking on that role themselves for each other, and then passing that down to whatever generation comes after.
The way I see it now is the whole system is so feminized that the men, their goal isn't to be a community, peer supporting, peer friendly part of the group. They're basically taking in feminine covetousness, and what that guy has. Yeah, I'll be his friend and I'll manipulate it away from him because I want to steal it or whatever. It's so screwed up right now. The thing is, the men are becoming better women than women, and they're even freaking out about that. So it's like it's getting ridiculous. Like, pretty soon the women will know how to manipulate women. How to, it's crazy, Jeff. It's really crazy.
I think these are the conversations to have as it gets crazier, having all that out in the open, so people could at least see the crazy. And then we could figure out how to get through it, what to do.
Yeah. You know how men are always complaining about how women are always nagging them and manipulating them and whatever, socially unaware, blah, blah. The men are getting good at and better at doing it than the women now. Like, it's pretty scary.
Oh, so they're both doing it to each other.
Well, it's getting pretty bad,
There's entire podcasts and streams up there that can teach people how to do it, how to get better at it.
Men shouldn't be master manipulators unless you're like, a good leader, I guess. But like now they're all pros at it. Like they can do it like nothing.
Men are because in my experience, most of my life, women were by far the best manipulator. Like those are the ones I had to watch out for. If someone was going to manipulate me, a woman was usually going to be able to do it. Men less so, and they were more direct. It's like they never really needed to manipulate me because we could always talk it out, and they could just ask directly. But so you're saying the men now are just as good as the women at manipulating?
They're learning. They're getting there. Like, those backhanded compliments that, appear like, it's, what I mean? Like, those antlers make you look real, manly in a nice kind of guy way or something, just, they just know how to irk you just enough to basically prop you up for a second and emasculate you at the same time.
Yeah. Oh, I know. No. Yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about.
Men aren't naturally adept to doing those kind of things. I mean, at least when we grew up. But now it's like they know how to do that stuff. Like, and they're getting better at it.
Well, good. I'm rooting for the men. So far, until they take it too far and give me a reason not to. So don't fuck it up, guys.
Another thing too is support for men and whatever. men need to be encouraged to stay in a marriage and how to maintain a wife. You know, they're on their
I
own now.
think, yeah, I think it goes back to support. With the right support network, that's a lot easier to do. If you have like back home, people, all my siblings are still married to their original people because there's a big network, community network of support that family dinners and everybody gets together with each other's kids, and it's easy to stay in a relationship there because there's so much support for it. If you having trouble, there's people you could talk to. You could call relatives or in-laws or siblings and talk out the problems.
Absolutely. And you know, now, I mean, I don't know, like there were probably things I could have done before my marriage was completely destroyed, and I, you know, there was no
Was it
like
not by your choice? Like, did you want it to continue?
my marriage.
Yeah.
Or no, I completely destroyed my marriage. Basically, it was my fault. So, but I could have, if I just had like some different perspective, or you know, maybe some, I don't know but if I would have just changed my thinking a little bit and saw things a little bit different, you know, I might have hung in there. You know what I mean? And there's no encouragement for families to stay together anymore. It's almost like, you know, just walk away.
There's an actual agenda, an ideological agenda to undermine the nuclear family. They see it as a construct of the patriarchy that's oppressing people.
I guess a lot of women feel like that. You know, they don't want to put someone, you know, else in the captain chair. They want to be the captain too. So, you know, I can understand that. But if there's no encouragement for families anywhere, then you're just going to have a population of who am I's. You know, they don't know who their parents are. They don't know who their anybody is. They can't trust nobody. All they can do is consume and Panelverse, I guess. I don't know, but they're, you know, something is off.
Well, send them here in the mean. If anybody knows any men in those boats, like, and they just need a lifeline for now, send them to the Panelverse. I hate to say it, but
Yeah.
I know it's helped a lot of people. Not just this stream, just people. Like, we have the technology for strangers to come online and talk to each other in like very real and honest ways about current problems and issues. So have them come here as a starting point, at least until we could get something else up that can help people. I agree 100%. Me and Steve talk about that kind of stuff all the time.
One of the things that
what's the social engineering part? So yeah. Chris, go ahead and share your thoughts, and I'm gonna be right back.
I'm gonna stay on that part. Your conversation was interesting. But, I don't know. I don't. I certainly have my own ideas for, like, you know, how to create better spaces for people, better third places and stuff like that. But a lot of them are kind of out of my reach right now. But you know, I'm just trying my best to, you know, get through like my own personal crap right now, and then like once I can get that stuff cleared out of the way, then it'll be a lot more easy to focus on all this other stuff. But yeah, it's been, you know, there is a lot of like expectations placed on men that I don't think are talked about enough or recognized enough. But I don't know exactly what to say. I don't know. I feel kind of blank right now at the moment. I'm kind of out of it, to be honest.
well, it's hard because you got your, you know, your corporate, you know, thankless job. You get, you know, screwed on your bonus every year, but the upper echelon is getting all their everything, you know, quotas met and whatever. And then, you know, you got all the BS with the dealings and that, and then you got the maintenance of everything. And then, you know, if you're married, you got a wife that, if she's American, she's not helping you. You know, she might be putting on a good act for a little while, but she's not really there for you. Let's just, especially if you have kids. Uh, you're basically two independent operators that, hopefully will be nice to each other at a certain point. There's no real leader and one is supporting the other. It's pretty much two leaders doing their own thing, and then the kids just kind of get in the way or whatever. And it's just so screwed up right now. Like, plus you're going from a masculine definition from a warrior class masculinity presentation of how it was in the past, and to now you have to be liked by everyone and persuade everyone and be the salesman.
We're still going to need warriors.
Done. You're not going to go kick some ass and you're not going to go kick ass and get your way. You have to basically sell. You have to be a salesman in this century in order to be at the peak of masculinity, which is a different mindset, and we're kind of in that transaction right now.
Can I tell you how long this has been going on for? There's an essay written by a classicist on the transition from the Iliad to the Odyssey, from Achilles to Odysseus, and they're about 30 years apart, so at least a generation between. And he analyzes the values of the Odyssey, which is the more recent work, and compares them to the values of the Iliad. And it's exactly the conversations we're having today about the more warlike masculine values and the more socially adaptable and polished values of Odysseus, who gets by on his wits and cunning and his ability to play roles and persuade people. That was the modern way instead of the warlike way of the Iliad. So people have been wrestling with these concepts for several thousand years now. This is our modern version of it.
Yeah, I've been going through some like my older favorite movies from like the late '90s, early 2000s. And I've noticed there's a lot of themes of like male mental health that are kind of in there that are kind of like not as obviously. It's not like the films are specifically about men's mental health, but
what movie? What's a
like,
movie?
Like Adaptation, for example. Adaptation has like is a huge movie about that. Like, I mean, it really is. It's like
we should watch it tonight.
Yeah, no, Adaptation. I loved it, and I know you don't like the director, but Punch Drunk Love. If you've ever been I think any neurodivergent person should be able to see that film and be able to relate to the Adam Sandler character in it. Because I'm not a huge Adam Sandler fan. It's Paul Thomas Anderson, but like I think he really played into Adam Sandler's like whole his persona SNL, where he would like go into these fits of rage and stuff like that. And he kind of employed that in a way that made it like showing this guy's like mental instability and stuff like that, and like kind of how he like in what he does to kind of like come into his own as a man, and that's another really good one. It's pretty short too. It's only about an hour and a half.
Philip, I don't know if it is the public schools' role to teach mental health. It certainly wasn't when I was in it. They had the school counselor, so they had like a school counselor. If you had individual kids that were struggling, they would get referred. And when I was teaching the schools, it was the same way. I didn't have to teach any basic mental health because there was a whole department I could refer a kid to, and they had counselors there that could address that. And it's like now the teachers are expected to take on the role of counselor and teacher. And it leaves me wondering where are the counselors these days? Why? What happened to their role, and why are they not the ones doing these jobs? But there was very little expectation that mental health is something I would go to public school to learn about.
Generally speaking, like our culture in this country, especially, and I think probably in other cultures too, tend to just ignore mental health on its own. I mean, like there's still this.
In a lot of religious cultures, prayer substitutes. I know back home, there is no mental health because everyone's just going to tell you go pray. It just means that you're like not right with Jesus, and all you have to do is go talk to Jesus and get right with him, and then your mental health problems will go away. So that is mental health. It doesn't go further than that.
Yeah, it's not even, that's not even like a South thing. That's like that's a thing that, I mean, I guess it maybe is a more of a South thing, but it's all over. I mean, my parents are much more like amenable to it, to that sort of thing. But like a lot of people, like, I mean, like they have, if they're depressed, they just get told like they just need to suck it up and be and get their attitude right. They need to like they need to get they need to change their attitude. They need to like think that they need to all they need to do is just like have a more positive outlook or something like that.
I was a kid. I had mental health issues. I had we moved to another school in junior high. So junior high, high school, but mostly junior high. I had some really severe adjustment difficulties that was affecting my mental health. And I don't know what the school could have done. I don't know that it was the teachers or the kids or the staff's role to
No,
know how to
I don't
deal with
necessarily
all.
I don't
Like
necessarily know that it
they
is.
refer me to the counselor. The counselor referred me to another higher level professional, and those people were able to address it better than anything
Yeah.
the school itself could have been expected to do. So I think just having like the current system of referrals to the right specialist or experts or whatever you want to call them, the right expertise or competency is still the right way to go. Because I think the amount of people like okay, here's what I do think, like basic mental health hygiene, mental health literacy, self-care, how to know if you're having mental health issues, where to reach out if you are, how to know if you have a good therapist or not. I'm for teaching that to anybody. I think they should do like Schoolhouse Rock videos on that, Sesame Street classes on that, like whatever level you could start introducing that. I would be all for something like that, just at a real basic level. Introducing the concept that mental health exists, it's a thing. Here's how you know if you're having it. Here's what to look for if someone else is having it, how to be supportive, where to go if you need further help, etc. Something like that. Yes.
Yeah, I mean, although it would also be very useful if we were educating parents that potentially have ADHD or autistic children, stuff like that, and how to help learn to recognize that stuff and to know what this looks like. I mean, because it's not something that is taught or is like, I mean, like people mention things, like I said, like people mentioned my ADHD, they diagnosed me with it, but no one really gave me any real, like, besides medication, they didn't give me much direction or much knowledge about what ADHD meant and what it actually does to your brain and how your brain people. That's a huge part of it. That's the reason why that channel I recommend it, How to ADHD. She goes into all that stuff and like and discusses and like in different videos like different parts of ADHD and how our brains work differently than other people's.
I think that's why it has to come from us. Like nobody that's not ADHD, like, or put it this way, somebody that's ADHD is going to be much better positioned to help other people in those situations. And so that's where we come in. Like it
is.
Come to us, send them to us. Like, let us help you. Let us tell you what we did. Let us help you figure out what works for your situation, etc. And same with men. I think each identity group. And one thing I was going to do today, and I'll try to do it tomorrow. There's this model of identity formation that is used in the gifted community, but it can actually be adapted for any identity. And it's things like finding the right validation, affirmation, the right affiliations and groups and stuff. And so for each identity you have, whether it's male, whether it's ADHD, there's certain developmental needs you need to make sure you're getting socially from like mentors, peer groups, communities, etc. And it's what those needs are and maybe some ideas on how to find them. And we can look at that tomorrow. But I think that ties into whenever you do find out you're neurodivergent or you have a mental health condition or you're male, you're isolated, you're male, there's no other males, whatever. Finding your peers, finding other people in that category or other people going through that situation is an excellent first start. And that's one thing like alcoholics do with 12 steps. They go and they find other alcoholics who have successfully battled with their alcoholism to help them get. So it's kind of that same model, just not as formal and structured as 12 steps. But whatever identity you are or you're struggling with, go find someone in that same boat or with that same identity. And it's at least a starting point. And this can be one of those places. I have in the description community hub. So this is the kind of functions that I had in mind. That we
Cult
could,
of Culture. I've never heard her mention mouth breathing linked to ADHD. I don't. I personally don't. It's not something I struggle with. I don't do much. I don't really mouth breathe unless I have sinus issues. So I don't. I really don't think I'd have to watch that. You can link that podcast if you like. I'll check it out. But like I have my doubts about that. I mean,
I don't.
It could be linked to some mental health thing in some way, but I don't know that ADHD has much to do with it.
I don't take anything either for depression. Like I've never had medication help me for depression. They tried me on things, and I didn't start to get better until I got off of all that. They made me into a zombie. I got really foggy. So, but I have seen medication also really be the thing that help someone's depression turn it around too. So medication is very individualized, and I don't like taking medication unless I absolutely need it. So I tend to avoid it as a solution.
I mean, what you're talking about.
How you know I'm laughing at you, Colt? That's quite an assumption. But yeah, I think maybe because I didn't hear about it until from you, like a day or so ago. So I wonder if it's just some hyperfixation thing that you might have run into on YouTube and it's on your mind. But I don't know how to like place its relevance in the larger body of medical knowledge. But it's not something I'm worried about at all. I also grind my teeth every night, and I'm supposed to wear a night guard, and I don't. So I'm not going to.
And also, just because there's correlation doesn't mean it's causation too. So remember that there could be correlation to people that have ADHD and mouth breathing.
If it's happening while I'm sleeping, I'm not worried about it because that's the least amount of control I have of every moment of the day when I'm asleep and not conscious. Is my least ability to do something about it.
And I also want to ask Colt, like why do you think that's such an important like revelation? Like why do you think that matters so much? Because I don't see that as being a particularly unless you're talking about sleep apnea or something like that.
ADHD is not caused by mouth breathing; it's neurodevelopment,
or vice versa. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like if it did, I would be
right. You're right, Colt. You did say that, but it's new to me and Crit and all the rest of it. We're not like taking it as seriously and jumping on it like you are. Like that's what I'm saying. You just encountered it, so for you it's fresh and persuasive and convincing, but not necessarily for everyone else. That's all I was trying to say.
What the heck is mouth breathing? Like, don't people breathe through their nose and their mouths? Like, what is the mouth breathing supposed to indicate? Like, I don't get it. Like,
yeah, I've never understood like people use the term mouth breather as like a derogatory term. I never
saw a video that linked it to issues, health and cognitive issues.
And if they weren't getting oxygen, they'd be dead, right?
I'm not gonna.
Like I said, I had bad allergies. I used to have my nose stopped up all the time, so I used to.
Well, you said you believed it, Colt. That's what I'm talking about. You yourself said you believed it.
Yeah, and I'm not trying to jump on. I'm actually trying to ask you questions about culture. I'm
actually trying to wrap the stream up. I don't want the conversation to be all about mouth breathing. If you wanna post the video,
what is that even supposed to indicate?
I don't know. It's a video he watched, and I haven't seen the video, so I don't even.
Like, if you go run around the block, you're gonna probably be breathing through your mouth.
I'm a shallow breather anyway. I always have been. I take just enough. I like little gasp. I take just enough oxygen to function.
Yeah, I used to have bad sleep apnea, and so I definitely did a lot. I definitely was breathing through my mouth a lot of times in my sleep, and like you'd stop, and they did a sleep study thing where you show you how you stop breathing and stuff like that during the night. And I was on a CPAP machine for a long time until I had that surgery, and then after that, I never had any sleep apnea issues. I don't snore anymore or anything like that. So
I will say this: I used to do when I was in my when I was in my 20s, I was involved in the New Age stuff, and I used to do these breathing exercises to oxygenate your body. It was specifically a way of breathing that maximized your oxygen use, and I would get kind of like a high, like if you go to an oxygen bar and breathe oxygen, it was kind of like a little oxy high. You get oxy drunk. after a while, after a few minutes of that. And I would do that like once or twice a day and oxygenate myself. And I felt really, really good. Like I didn't feel depressed. I felt mentally like positive. And I don't know if it was connected because I didn't keep it going for very long, but I do remember doing the oxygenation thing, and it did make a difference.
All right. Yeah, we can wrap it up. I thank you to everybody out in the comments and stuff. Chris, it's likely connected for you just by what you're saying now. But no, like I said, it was connected to my sleep apnea because I was overweight. I was overweight, and like my weight was causing my sleep apnea, and that's the reason why I was mouth breathing. It wasn't. It was caused because I couldn't breathe my nose.
This person's playing. This person's gaslighting now. How are we supposed to get the connotation of a word out of our head that you are the only one introducing over and over and over and over and over? You are the one bringing it into the conversation, but somehow we're responsible for the connotation, for like misconnoting it. Just communicate better. I know it's a
ADD would indicate, like talking a lot about a lot of different nothing. And so, like, if you're doing that, you're breathing through your mouth because you're talking a lot, running your mouth. So, like, don't they? If any of this was true, wouldn't they already be dead from lack of oxygen or something? Like, I don't get this. Like, some really. What if those sinus people had their tonsils taken out? Does that affect, their ADD or whatever? I mean, I don't get it.
What if you have a deviated septum and you can't breathe through your nose, right?
Philip,
or a cleft palate.
This is an example of a conversation I think is way more interested in mouth breathing that I'd like to move on to. Philip, I can tell you for sure in my life that diet, having fresh food, healthy food, when my mental health is like taking a dip, if I can get some fresh food into my diet, it's like medicine. It's like a pill. Like within a day or two, my whole mental outlook is changed just from eating the right food. So I've had that happen, and exercise as well. Like going on a good hike, or I don't know, riding a bike or playing some volleyball or something for a few days can also like shake you out of a funk. So there is a correlation or some kind of connection between physical and mental health that I've experienced in my own life. So I absolutely, diet and exercise. If you can't change anything else and you can somehow change your diet, get some fresher food, fresh vegetables, some good meats, etc., that alone can make just a smidget of difference. When after I lost Mike and I was in my grief and I had stopped eating, I lost like 40 pounds in a couple of weeks. My system is shut down completely. And his mom called the house and was concerned that I wasn't eating, and she had some fresh groceries delivered, and that was the first fresh food I had eaten in weeks. And that's probably the first thing that started to turn around the grief and the heat. And then after that is when I started going out in the desert and that was the other thing that allowed the healing to happen. So the two catalysts were healthy diet and then spending time out in the wilderness, nature. So there you go.
And I was gonna mention this earlier, and this is like since we're wrapping up. I think I'd like to try to do the script read thing as a scripted thing we keep talking about. Let's do a night stream here.
Why don't we do? You want to do one tonight? Because I was thinking of doing an evening stream, and we can even do like a scene just for practice to show people and get it started.
Yeah, I just feel we can just start doing it, even just the two of us, and if other people can join in, they can, and then we'll just to go forward with it. I just feel it's better. It's better for a night stream than it is for a day stream, I think, because it's kind of like alternative.
I'll probably do one tonight anyway, so I have something later tonight, but after that's over, I'll be free. Y'all are throwing out such great topics. I almost don't want to end the stream, but I do have today's kind of a busy day for me. But this is an excellent question for neurodivergent and ADHD people, because I would say it depends on the person. For some people, having a schedule and discipline makes all the difference, and that is the magic thing they need to get them to their goal. And for other people, it's the complete opposite. It's learning how to float and not get too caught up with discipline and a schedule. So here's the thing that troubleshoot each individual situation.
there's a lot of things that ADHD people have an issue with too, and like I myself have noticed this, and this has been mentioned by other ADHD channels and stuff like that. People that I've talked to, I'm really good at getting things organized and getting into a disciplined schedule type thing, but it's very difficult to maintain it.
Yeah.
Like maintaining it is extremely difficult, and then you lose track. Once you lose just like one, all it takes is like one little thing to fall off that schedule, and then suddenly it feels like your whole schedule falls apart, and then it feels too overwhelming for you to try to like pick it back up together, and put it together, and that's it.
Yeah.
So that's an issue with ADHD in general. It's like, you can hyper focus and get your shit really organized and get really like, get everything really in where everything's where it's speed, but then all it takes is like for one little thing to fall to not be put back in its place or something, and it's like the entire thing just falls apart from there, and then suddenly everything's everywhere again. And so it is a very good point though, King Philip. It's a very good thing to bring up. We can talk about it more tomorrow. Definitely.
And when you're ADHD people in discipline or organizing or structure, be very realistic. Like Chris said, if you know you're not going to maintain it, then don't try to create something too complicated. Know your limitations from the start and create a system that works for you. It may not be like a consistent system of organization. It may be a way to have organization when you need it at certain moments, and then flow at other times. So you have to be able to customize it to each person.
Which, to be fair, is also a big ask for an ADHD person, because we tend to hyper focus on things. We tend to create overly complicated systems for ourselves to follow. So
yeah, Colt. I really wish you'd come on panel one day so I could get a better feel for how to read you sometimes, because from just text, it's kind of hard. I could tell I've definitely thrown you off today somehow with this.
Hey Jeff, so we had that discussion a couple nights ago or whatever about the elections may not be so uppity up and whatever. You still have a inclination that maybe that might be true, or you're full blown back to fair and secured elections again.
Yeah, no, I'm confident in our elections. Like
Cool.
I don't have the same concerns about election security that other people might. That is not one of my issues. The choices themselves about the candidates concern me, and their age and their health. But the fairness of the elections is not one of my concerns.
I was just saying if it's stuck
faith.
or whatever, because people accuse you of whatever. I'm just saying if someone is able to at least crack your mind a little bit, if you're able to stick with it or not. So you just proved that. But I want to say, like, the ADHD, ADD, reality or whatever. I'd venture to say that a lot of your greatest leaders ever were probably people that had that kind of condition. If they weren't necessarily perfectionists and they could delegate, those were probably the best leaders that the human race has ever known. I'd venture to say. So, it may not be such a quote unquote like handicap, I guess, or whatever. It could be one of a person's greatest asset as well, as to be able to see a lot of different things at once, and then just kind of delegate solutions. And so it's not always a bad thing, in my opinion. With that all said,
hang on, it's right here. Let me grab it out. ADHD. The what was the first part of what you were saying, that the reality of the ADHD brain?
They could be good leaders.
Oh yeah. I did a podcast with this like business leader, business coach or whatever, and he's trained all these entrepreneurs, and like thousands of them, and he said he hasn't met a single one yet that is not ADHD. Like people that start companies and start businesses and get in position of power and leaders and all that, the rates of ADHD or autism or some kind of neurodivergent are disproportionately higher.
How does he say they deal with it?
Colt, you trolling right now. Stop. I'll see you tomorrow when you come back to start the same song and dance.
All right,
those people, they just work harder, or
right.
Wait, say again. DaFreak.
those people that are those leaders, those business entrepreneurs, what do they do to cope? Like, do they just work harder, or how do they cope, or whatever?
I think their brains. I think of it like, you know how like the ants are all follow this little scent trail or whatever, and the ADHD ant is the one that's following his own trail. He's not following the same little trail that the rest of the ants are, and they just need to leave him alone, let him follow that trail. So their brains kind of propel them forward. They're following their brains, and they have the energy, the motivation, the drive, and they have the ability to see all the different pathways because they can do that multi-track thinking. And so that skill set is just really useful. And like, I was told one time, it was, they said ADHD, it's not anything scientific. It was just like a little like saying that ADHD is a leadership trait and OCD is a follower trait. And so if you have ADHD people and OCD people in combination, and you can get the right combination of leadership follower traits, you can get things done.
Yeah, I can see that. Yeah. Interesting stuff.
Colt, this is the way to go. You're doing the right thing, and definitely keep doing that. I do the same thing when people show up I don't like. I watch another panel or I drop off a panel. So that's based internal locus of control and self-determination. So keep it up. Okay, yeah, good talking, DaFreak, and thank you for your I like what you had to say about men's mental health, and it has me thinking about solutions. So keep those conversations coming. Hey, Daniel Barry, good seeing you. We're just about wrapping up, but it's never quite a stream without you showing up. So now it feels like a real stream. Yeah, Colt, thank you too. Good to see you as always. And, we'll be back. If we do a stream tonight, we might start reading some of Chris's scripts. So if you're good at theater, you want to take on a role or something and hop on the panel, tonight might be the night to do it. And other than that, we'll be here tomorrow at our usual time. So catch us then. We'll have more of these conversations.
All right, if you decide to do the stream, just message me because I'll have my phone on me, but I won't. It doesn't. I don't have the notification
on Discord, or should I text?
Either way, just like those messages will come straight to me. But if it's just like you just posted it in a Discord thread, it won't notify me. So
okay,
yeah,
sounds good.
Anyway, because I'll be outside working in the car, so let me know.
All right.
Talk to you guys later. Bye.
All right. I wish you much success. I hope you get it put back together.
Yeah, that's what I'm doing now. It's all putting it back together. So later.
Well, come in for support when you need it.
I will. And
yeah. Thanks everyone. Auntie, Colt, Dr. Head. Good to see you. Freak, Philip, everybody. Great conversation. Great ideas. Thank you all. I love this community. DaFreak. DaSheik. Yes. Oh, Cole. Thank you. we like you too, I think. All right.